In the next 3 minutes, I'm breaking down the only 3 study tips you actually need to get top grades. 1. Know exactly what can be tested and what's wasting your time. One of the biggest mistakes students make is revising everything instead of revising strategically. To get top grades, you need to be focused on what can actually come up in the exam, and that starts with the specification or the syllabus. The spec is basically the exam board's checklist. If something is on there, it can be tested. The spec can be found on the exam board's website, and I recommend having it open every time you revise. For example, if you're using a textbook or a YouTube video, cross-check anything you're learning with the spec. If it's not mentioned in the spec, don't focus on that bit of information too much. You could also make your life easier by using resources that are already tailored to the spec. One website that does this is PMT, and I use their resources to build my notes. And there's lots of teachers on YouTube which have years of experience with the exams. But it's not just about the content that you learn. You also need to know how you'll be tested. Even if you know all the facts, you won't get the marks if you don't understand the structure of the exam. For subjects like English or any essay-based paper, this means knowing what the question types are, how to structure your answer, and what the examiners are actually looking for. This is all on the exam board's website, but I find it much easier to learn all this by watching videos on exam technique. So to summarize, use the spec to know what to study, use the exam board's website or videos to know how it's going to be assessed. 2. Don't just memorize, aim to understand. One of the most common mistakes students make is focusing too much on memorization. Memorizing means you can repeat the facts word for word. Understanding means you can explain a concept in your own words and actually apply that knowledge to different types of questions. To actually understand what I was revising, I followed a simple process. I used trusted resources like PMT and YouTube videos to learn a topic, and then I wrote it down in my own words. In my notes, I would also create diagrams. This forced me to process the info. If something didn't make sense, I'd find another explanation, maybe from a different video, or use a textbook, or even ask my teacher. And now it's even easier to understand something. You can use AI to explain anything you're stuck on. Then you should check how well you understand the concept. One of the best ways to check your understanding is to teach the concept to someone else. If you get stuck or they ask a question you can't answer, that's a weakness. And now you know what to review or ask your teacher about. This mindset of understanding more will set you apart from most students. 3. Use practice questions the right way. Out of everything I did, the number one thing that helped me boost my grades was answering practice questions, but not doing them just for the sake of it, going through them properly. Here's where most students go wrong with this. They treat practice questions like a quiz, not a learning opportunity. Most students skip the hard questions, move on too quickly after getting something wrong, or glance at the mark scheme without really studying it. And those are some huge mistakes. What I did after every practice question was that if I got a question wrong, I didn't move on immediately. I spent time going through the mark scheme, and I tried to understand why my answer doesn't get the mark, and what I needed to write to get full marks next time. And if I learned something new or important from the mark scheme, I wrote it down in my notes. This helped me to consolidate the mark scheme. In a way, it's like treating the questions or the mark schemes as a mini textbook, because it shows you what counts as a good answer in the exam. That's more useful than almost any other resource. And if I noticed that I kept getting questions wrong on the same topic, I would go back, relearn that topic, and practice more questions just on that. That's what takes you from a C to an A star. Although these are my top 3 study tips, if you're serious about improving your grades, the resources and websites that I use to get top grades at GCSE and A levels are covered in this video here.